in 77, somehow wound up in Venice and
Uh-huh.
lived around there. And then, when my daughter was like 16, her grades weren't so hot. And I said, look, I don't want to live here anymore. I don't have to. I never work here. They hire me. I could get on an airplane. I could do that back east. And I hear the schools in Connecticut are good. So either you get your act together or we're moving. So we wound up moving. And then after the first semester, she wound up becoming a, honor student again. And I said,
Oh,
what changed? And she said, well, I guess, it's cool to be smart here.
yeah. Thank God, it's a good call on your behalf.
Yeah.
So how did you start? How do you start the business? How do you start acting? Did you go to New York? Where'd you go?
Yeah. My, Flory had a friend that knew an actor.
Not your
And
father, not your mother's husband, the uncle,
yeah,
the
cousin
second cousin.
Flory.
You call him your
Cousin
father
Flory.
now?
Well, I called him my father. I called them both my father after a while.
Okay.
When he got out of prison, he lived with us, and then mommy threw daddy out of the house, and Flory stayed,
Oh, so he
and
was actually there when you were a kid.
he was there until I was like, he'd come and visit, and then I remember him. I have memories of him coming to the house and playing with me. And then I remember my mom taking me to the federal holding facility. He'd been convicted of what I didn't know at the time, and saying goodbye and touching the glass and talking on the telephone. I was 7 years old. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah. What do you get? What
And
was he in prison for?
the last thing was, drug trafficking.
Uh,
He was a solid, he was a wise guy. That's,
yeah.
like I wanted to be an actor.
Yeah.
He wanted to be a wise guy. That's what he wanted to be.
And he was.
And he was.
Okay. So how did he inspire your acting?
He said every move I ever made in my life was the wrong move. So
Yeah.
don't fuck up your life like I fucked up my life. The energy that I put into doing this shit, you could take that energy in a positive way. And if you put your mind to it, if this is what you want to do, because he saw me in the high school play, he said, if this is what you want to do, and there's nothing that can stop you. He said, remember, those fucking movie stars, they wipe their ass twice a day if they're lucky.
Yeah.
And, so it was what I wanted to do. And I met a guy who said, go down to HB Studios. And that's how I've been incredibly lucky in my life to meet mentors, people that had something that I wanted, like they say in the 12-step program, that saw something in me that I didn't know existed and guided me.
It was HB Studios?
HB Studios. There was a guy named Al Sinkies. He wasn't even a teacher. Really talented guy, and I got to stage manage on shows that he directed, and
And that was in New York?
yeah, down on Bank Street.
Okay.
And also teachers like my speech therapy teacher there, and other teachers that followed after him, and just other people, like the Wallachs, Eli Wallach and Ann Jackson, because I was in school with their daughter Roberta, and they took me and introduced me to my first agent, and working my just those little teeny breaks, a series of those little 1,000 little breaks that you get.
So what was it? So in high school you did some acting, but what was the first stuff you did in New York?
See, when I decided to be an actor, I was my last year in high school, and I was, I don't know, 4 months shy of being 19 years old, because I was undiagnosed dyslexic. They didn't have dyslexia then. It was either
Yeah.
you're stupid, lazy, or crazy.
Right.
So I didn't know how to read. I didn't learn how to read because I was embarrassed. It was so difficult, and I just took a attitude. It was one of the reasons why I wanted to be in show business. Is I thought you didn't need how to read. You
Yeah.
need to learn how. But
Right.
what do you need to read for? That looks easy. I've been
Yeah.
lying my whole life, and so that my teacher said, if you want to do this, you have an aptitude for this. You're going to need to learn how to read. So I was diagnosed. I found a teacher, an elementary school teacher that evaluated me and said I had a third grade reading level. So those first 2 or 3 years at HB Studios, I used to find off Broadway, and I would audition for little plays that had no repercussions. So, that I could fall on my nose and nobody would give a shit.
Right.
They weren't going anywhere and I wasn't going anywhere.
Right.
And so I did a lot of these little basement plays as I started to learn how to read. And
it's a crazy time, right? It was basement plays. It must have been pretty wild, though. It was the 60s, right? Or what? Early 70s?
Early 70s. Yeah. But listen, my rent was $106 a month.
Right.
I was waiting tables 3 times a week and living like a king. I was making, $140 a week.
Yeah.
I had a lot of money. I don't know how these kids do it today.
Yeah. So you're doing the little plays in the basement. You're learning how to read. You're waiting tables.
Waiting tables. And you get lucky. And I got to play a national tour of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Who'd you play?
I played Billy Bibbit.
Oh, wow.
And then I got another production of that with Robert Forster, a summer tour.
Who did he play?
McMurphy.
Oh, no kidding. Huh.
Yeah. He is another one that just, saw something in me and introduced me to people. And I got to hang out with him and get to know him. And he was great. He was absolutely great. And I just, then I got my SAG card.
For what?
I did a Joseph Strick movie. Barry Bostwick was in it, Regina Bath, Robert Dreyfuss. I was thug number 2.
Uh-huh.
And I did that, and I would see guys that were in my acting class on television that there was this whole exodus of people that were going to New York, from New York to Los Angeles, and they were on Police Story and I Shied and Kojak. And I'm thinking, if those guys can get jobs, I can get a job.
Yeah.
So I saved up enough money with my then girlfriend, $1,500 each, and we got on an airplane.
So you go out and then you start doing TV in LA. Is that what happens?
Yeah, I got really lucky really quick. I was there a couple of months, and back in those days, you had to audition. There was a casting director named Eddie Foy III, who was, I guess, the grandkid of Eddie Foy, the famous comedian.
Yeah. And
he worked at ABC. He was a casting guy, head of casting, I guess. And my girlfriend got an audition. We did a scene from a play, and he thought I was right for something, and recommended me for this pilot with John Biner, this TV show that we're doing at ABC. John Biner.
Yeah. Another comedian.
Yeah. And I wound up getting that job.
Yeah.
And that was at Columbia TV.
What was that called?
That was called McNamara's Band.
Oh, okay.
That Bernie Kukoff and Jeff Harris and Harry Colombi wrote that. I think it wound up turning into Johnny Dangerously, the Michael Keaton movie years later.
Oh yeah.
And then Columbia TV, I got hired by Rob Reiner for a TV series that he did, a half-hour show after All in the Family, called Free Country, and it took place. It was a turn-of-the-century sitcom.
Yeah.
We did 5 of those. And from that, Columbia TV was doing the remake of From Here to Eternity, a 6-hour miniseries, and I got that.
Did you play the trumpet player?
No, Pruitt. No, I played Angelo Maggio, the part.
Oh, of course. Right.
Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
Which was funny because he was from Hoboken too.
Yeah. Did you ever meet that guy?
I met Sinatra from afar, but he had sent his guy, Mickey Rudin was his attorney. And at the party, the premiere party, Rudin introduced himself to me, and I was such an idiot. He said, I've represented your predecessor for the last 30 years, and I didn't know what a predecessor was.
Yeah.
And I said, what's the predecessor? He said, Frank Sinatra. I said, no kidding. I said, his father and my grandfather were firemen together. He goes, I know all about it. I said, I said, what are you going to tell Sinatra? He says, I'm going to tell him you did all right. You did all right. But I was too nervous to meet him.
You're too nervous to meet Frank?
Yeah.
He holds that much, he holds a big place in Hoboken.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he was another reason, like my friends in the acting class. If Sinatra could get out, so could I. It was a way to get out.
Yeah.
They made On the Waterfront in Hoboken. It was a way to get out. A lot of the guys were extras that were in the movie, so it was like, shit. Yeah, I'll be an actor. That'd be a way to get out.
So you're doing television in the 70s there. And then, like, the movie thing, when does that take off? Like, I didn't realize you were in that Idolmaker movie. I kind of remember that movie.
Well, see, what happens is you meet people, and you, like, in that case, Rita Riggs was the costume designer on All in the Family, and she did the thing with Rob, Free Country. And so Taylor Hackford was his first film, and he was staying at her place. She had this beautiful warehouse apartment on 3rd Street. So she said, hey, there's a guy I just worked with, Joey. You should bring him in. And so that's how I got that job.
Yeah. And you sort of establish yourself as a certain frequency because you're a singular guy, singular talent. And it just seems like, at any role that I've ever seen you in my entire life, it's just like, which frequency of me do you need? Do you want me, how high do you want me to turn this up?
It's so true. It's sad, but true.
You're like, you want a little bit or you want the full thing? You want the full thing? But no, it's great because, no one can be you. But that was the first movie. The first big movie was The Idolmaker?
I think so.
When do you, like, outside of just doing the work, I mean, when do you realize, I guess it must have been risky business where you're like, I'm a guy now. People know me. I'm on the street. They recognize me.
I thought that was the case when I did From Here to Eternity. And then I didn't work for 18 months and I was waiting tables again.
Oh, no, really?
Yeah.
Oh, shit, that's the worst.
In New York, you could get away with it.
Yeah.
I was always just trying to pay the rent. I was always, just like the drive. I was motivated by fear. And it's always the last job. I'm never going to work again.
Right.
And I never wanted to get too attached. It was like, I didn't want to have to say goodbye. I hate saying goodbye. So when movies were over, it was horrible. It was those last days are always horrible because it just, you got to say goodbye. And and it's.
You get attached?
Well, it's like this kind of concentrate. You get there, you show up, and this one's your wife, and that one's your lover, and this is your brother, and so it's like instant. It's instantaneous.
Right.
And
I have
then
a
you never see
family.
them again.
Yeah. Like I have a family, and then they're gone.
And they're gone. So but I just love the noise of it, the distraction, the moment of clarity in between action and cut. It's like I always kind of. So I never knew who I was.
Yeah.
I like the idea that I could invent somebody that I wanted to be like. I think one of the reasons why I'm so convincing at playing bad guys is because I was so bullied as a kid because I was fat. I was always getting my ass kicked because I was an easy target. These bastards would see me and they just start smacking me around. And so I never, when I could never stand up for myself. So seeing those guys in my mind's eye when I was playing these scenes, a lot of times I was getting even with these bastards 30 years later.
No kidding.
My doctor said I was sublimating unresolved feelings.
So by playing the bad guys, you were able to beat the bad guy.
Yeah. Or the bad guy that,
kicked your ass when you were
humiliated me. That's a terrible feeling to be humiliated like that.
To be embarrassed.
Shamed, yeah. And you think you're weak. You think it's you.
So you knew all these guys. You're very familiar with bullies from the other side of it.
Oh yeah, yeah. And that's why Trump bugs me so much
Oh,
because
he's a
he's a
real deal.
nasty, lying, guy that got